Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. This is part of my 10-day wonderful interlude where I've been given the gift to interview actors, directors, as I'm with Munjal Yagnik right now, an amazing director, and we're going to learn all about his world. But that's what I've been doing for 10 days. Actors, directors, filmmakers, musicians, plunging into the world that I love so much, the world of film, the world that teaches and inspires and guides my whole life. My whole life has been guided by my watching Casablanca, and it's changed my life irrevocably and wonderfully. So I love anything to do with film, and I'm thrilled to have this time because Munjal's film is going to be showing Scarlet Winter, a murder mystery. It's going to. By the way, I'm going to be watching it tonight because it's on Amazon. I'm going to watch it tonight. And I'm excited about that. And actually, I'm going to learn a whole bunch so that when I'm watching it, it's going to add to my viewing
Yeah.
experience. So, and again, I'm so glad, you made the time because, you are, in addition to everything else you're doing, you are a professor at Rochester Institute of Technology, teaching just what you're going to talk about, animation, film, visual arts, and so forth. So my monologue is over. Uh,
Okay.
why don't you, Munjal, just take a couple minutes out and do a little background, and then we're going to jump in to your world.
Okay. Well, Kelvin, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, for giving me a platform, and for giving Scarlet Winter a platform. It's always wonderful to be able to promote your work. So I appreciate that you are sharing this with your audience. Um, yes, I am a director and a cinematographer. My film Scarlet Winter right now is going to be playing at Garden State Film Festival this weekend, and we've had a pretty decent festival journey, bunch of awards and nominations. Um, and recently we found distribution for the film, and you can watch the film on your preferred platform. So if you have Apple TV, you can watch it on Apple TV. If you have Amazon, if you have Spectrum, if you have Sky. But we've released in US and UK. We had a tiered release, and yes, for your viewers who like murder mysteries, they might get a kick out of watching this film. Um, Lots of twists and turns, and it's a bit of a dark film. Um,
Okay. Hey, dark is good.
yeah, you
Dark is
like
good.
noir, you told me earlier. So yes, it's for those who like that genre.
I just made that up. Dark is good because sometimes it is good. Little slaps in the face of reality. Um, um, so, I like to ask this. I think about it. I'm a writer, and I have to. I always like to plug. My second novel came out. There's a tortoise in my hair, Journey to Spirit. By the way, probably between 50 and 100 times, Manjal, I mentioned something about film
Mhm.
in here. So
All right.
whether I'm quoting a line from a movie that has motivated or inspired me,
Yeah.
it's that such a part of my life that I throw it in 50 times, 100 times, whatever it is. So, what inspired your writing Scarlet Winter?
Well, I love murder mysteries. I've always enjoyed it ever since I was a kid. I'm fascinated by genre films, and being an independent filmmaker, this is my first debut feature as a director. And so when you're trying to work on your first film, first feature, that is not my first film, but my first feature, working in genre. Avails a lot of opportunity to have control within a limited budget so that you can express yourself in a way that's effective, and you can portray your talent as a director. The genre um, space is designed almost for indie filmmakers, and you're not competing with big budget Hollywood films. Um, and so genre made a lot of sense. When we started, I wanted to work on something that was plot driven with some character depth. Being a first-time filmmaker, I was unsure of what first-time feature filmmaker, I was unsure of what kind of a cast I would be able to attach to the film. Eventually, we ended up getting a wonderful cast because they fell in love with the script. But when you're starting out, you don't know what that journey is going to look like. And so for those reasons too, I wanted to make a genre piece. And Scarlet Winter ended up becoming that film when I started the process. I knew it was going to be a murder mystery. I knew how the film starts, but I didn't know much more than that. And through the process of exploration, I was able to find the narrative that I
So
found.
as you're moving along, it's evolving.
Yeah, the only idea I had was the premise of the film. A man wakes up with a dead body in the house, and we don't know what has happened and what has led to that event. I had this image in my head, I had this circumstance in my head, and that is all I was starting with. What happens from there unfolds in the film. We look at different suspects. We audience is trying to piece together themselves what actually has happened. Nobody other than the audience through the film has full information. And the audience, I feel like out of all the characters, the most information is held by the audience. And so they're making decisions on what has happened, who are the culprits, what are some of the nuances of the events that transpired in the film, because the characters are going through that journey, and they have a narrow view of their world only.
Are there other specific themes you wanted to explore, messages you wanted to send in the film?
Whenever I start a film, I never start with the idea of trying to deliver a message.
Okay.
Um, Being didactic, is a dangerous territory because audiences are very sophisticated. People know when you're being preachy. And that is never a good place to start, especially when you're trying to make an entertaining film. I'm sure there's a place for it. But for me, the goal always has been how do I make the most engaging, most entertaining film so you can suspend your disbelief and go on that journey, and hopefully not pay attention to form, and the mechanics of what brings a film together. Um, Being a cinematographer, I have a keen interest in developing tone and visual language, and I love music, and I love developing um, arcs through these tools. But ultimately, if the audience is paying attention to those, somewhere you failed as a filmmaker,
Hmm.
at least in the worldview that I have of the film, of filmmaking. And so all along, it's always been how do I suspend disbelief and get people engaged and give them an hour and a half of entertainment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm smiling. Actually, I'm smiling the whole time I'm with you because, the bonding and your journey. But it's funny, you were answering the question I asked, and you used the word didactic. And why was I smiling? Because I think in every Woody Allen movie, he uses that word
Huh.
for sure in Annie Hall, but I'm pretty sure he uses didactic in every movie, and I get hysterical laughing
Yeah.
because you made me think of Woody Allen. There you go. Um, Challenges doing production. What unique or general challenges did you encounter? Um,
Yeah, production. Challenges are plenty, especially when you're on a budget. One of the biggest ones that we encountered was weather. The film
Weather.
takes place in a snow landscape, yeah. And in order for you to have the production value that you want in a film that takes place in um, the Northeast, in snow country, in the middle of nowhere, you want weather to be on your side. Exactly. Scarlet Winter, there's a lot of snow in the film.
Let us
Uh,
know.
and so when we started, we had a schedule, and I had written the film in a way that I would be able to cope with a lack of snow, but really I was hoping that there is plentiful snow, and so we don't have to really rely on visual effects and special effects to get um, that in camera. And first day of production, there was a blizzard, and we were blessed with insane amounts of snow,
Yes.
to a point where we had to actually shut down the production and then figure out a new strategy to approach, how we're going to finish the film. And all that was a learning curve. When you are faced with these challenges, you think outside the box and you push the boundaries of your creativity. And so, if as far as you're prepared for circumstances like that, or you try your best and you have the will to push past it, I think you get through it. And so eventually we did end up making finishing in time, making our days. But initially was a challenge, and I think snow was a big piece of it. Yeah.
So that I was going to ask you about obstacles. That was one huge.
It was a huge obstacle, yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we shut down the production and we lost a lot of time. That put a lot of pressure on the back end of the production of how we would finish within budget. Um, but you learn, and this is not the first time I've had to deal with weather. I'd made a short film many years back, and I had a similar situation, but I did not handle it as well as I did with Scarlet Winter because I was not adapting as much. It went, uh, I was more naive. Yeah, I was younger. I was learning. I'm still learning, but with Scarlet Winter, I went in with Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, um, to tackle weather and circumstances around weather. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. Um, two-pronged. Um, uh, um, do you have a kind of like a directing style? And do you have any director role models that you kind of like and some of the work they've done?
Yeah. I mean, we all do, right? I mean, one of the things that has changed with modern filmmaking is I grew up venerating auteurs. There are filmmakers who develop signature styles and found their own voice, and that's because there were fewer films made, and those films with very strong voices found visibility, and everybody in the world was watching those films, or at least in parts of the world. And so we all knew what is a Stanley Kubrick film like, or a Spielberg film like, or when Catherine Bigelow's work, or whoever it is that you look up to. With modern filmmaking, I mean, it's very democratic. There's a lot more access. There are lots of great directors out there. They just don't get noticed because there's so much work out there now, and so you really have to push the bar to be able to get to that point where you have enough gravity around you as a director. So that is something that has changed. And so yes, I grew up looking up to those filmmakers. Um, but stylistically, I think there's a lot that happens now. My personal you asked me about my personal style. Um, I'm very visually driven, so I love telling story with landscapes. I love telling stories with music. I feel that one of the things that has changed in the last 15, 20 years is things have become quite a bit formulaic. Everybody's following the same hero's journey, and there's a lot of focus on writing, and there's great writing, and that's wonderful. I think there should be great writing. There's sloppy writing too, but there's great writing. But I think what's lost is people have stopped thinking of filmmaking as an audiovisual medium. And it's all of it. You have to write well, but you have to evoke emotions using strategies in the audiovisual. Uh, it's Audiovisual medium is very unique to filmmaking. How you A lens is very unique to
Mhm.
filmmaking and motion picture, apart from photography. And so, how do you use those to tell a story that's very unique to cinema? And that's usually the quest that I'm on as I'm making work, trying to figure out what is it that I'm doing that can't be done in any other medium. Um, so yes, I'm kind of always in search for it. And it's really hard for me to define one aspect of my story because I'm not the judge of it. People who watch it um, are better in a better position to make a decision on what it is that my style is. It would be a little self-involved for me to pin it down and kind of put myself in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two words come to mind as I'm listening and thinking, the word collaboration and the word improvisation. So, collaborating with actors on a set, how does that go for you? And do you allow improvisation? I hear all kinds of stories about improvisation. A couple of Jack Nicholson stories and maybe some Marlon Brando, but the whole thing of collaboration. So how do you feel about those two things, collaboration and
Yeah,
improv?
I mean it's one of the most fun aspects of filmmaking, collaborating. For me, I mean, I love when actors bring something new to the table that I have not considered. There are scenes in Scarlet Winter uh, that we have written. You know, I wrote it with my co-writer Zach Thielen, and going into a scene, I would have this one idea of what that scene means. And even as a writer, sometimes you don't know what you've written. And so I would be having a conversation with um, you know, my lead, Gregory Waite, or I would be having a conversation with Sophie Machowski or Ryan Hope Travis or Nadine, any of the great actors that we've been able to attach to this film. And they would find things that I hadn't considered, and we would have a conversation about what they see is in the film. So yes, of course, I would have input, and I would try to shape and keep us on track. But I think the idea of exploration and trying to find what the story is sometimes yields a better product, better film. And so I like being open to it. Part of my job is to listen um, to the actors and give them a safe space where they can operate optimally, because it's one of the hardest jobs in the world to put yourself in front of others and be vulnerable and to put trust in the cast, I mean, in the crew and the director, um, that they will honor the effort that you put in and bring the film to life in a way that's um, respectful to them and dignified.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, if I'm an actor and I have a director who's so open and welcomes criticism and stuff, in and of itself, that also fosters actors digging deeper because you're respecting them and you're coming to them, so that probably helps them bond to you, and maybe it elicits and evokes a better performance. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because one of the things is you have to be sure as a director of what you want so you can instill confidence in people, and that comes from having done research and actually having done your homework. It's not just having an ego, you actually have to do the work before you go on set. So you know um and having that point of view is important because that gives actors comfort that you have come in prepared and that they are in safe hands. It gives them an opportunity to build trust. But ultimately, they are the ones who are saying those lines and moving in space in front of the camera and interacting with space and filling time. Um, and so they should have some ability to find what it means to be in that character and to be on that journey. So I think it's a mix of both. I think it's most of it is just actually developing trust with people so that they do their best work and hopefully you help them um, stay on the right path Your job is not to hold their hand, obviously. It's just to kind of be behind them and guide them when they need help. Um, hopefully. But
Yeah.
I'm learning. I don't have it figured out. I mean, I question myself all the time, and I'm learning all the time of what it is to be a director and what am I doing right, or uh, you know where is there room for growth? And there always is so much room for growth and improvement.
Um, I mean, this is building an audience. I mean, well, you leave it to marketing people, but I mean, that's got to be a constant thought. How do you build an audience for a film?
Yeah, it's there's different philosophies around it. There's different approaches to it. I am somebody who believes that ultimately good work is good work. A good film is a good film. An engaging film is an engaging film. And if your work speaks for itself, and you put enough effort into finding an audience for it, it will inevitably find an audience. But you have to make the work. You have to put effort into making good work. Um, that is something that you can't compromise on. What kind of an audience you'll find, oftentimes, at least in the indie scale of things, is kind of in flux. You're figuring that out. Of course, if it's a commissioned project by Hollywood, they already have an audience figured out, and everything is kind of done backwards. I'm not in that space. I also am not at all big on social media. I'm a very private person, and I kind of just like doing the work and focusing on my work and moving on to the next project. So it never is something that I'm too concerned about of how I will find the audience. There are experts that do that work. We've been very fortunate to have Prolific Pictures as our sales agency, and we got picked up by 101 Films out of UK, who have done a phenomenal job promoting the film and bringing it to different platforms. And they are experts in what they do. I'm not. Hopefully, I know how to make a film, and that's where I try to stay within my domain.
By the way, I respect that, and I love that because when you get to be, in my case, a septuagenarian, you know what you can do and you know what you can't do. And sometimes maybe you spend decades in life trying to figure out, can I do that, do this, and you go down that road, you go down this road, and then one day you have this great epiphany. It's like 1,000 incandescent light bulbs go off, and you realize I can't ever use Final Cut. That's just never going to happen. Not on my time on this earth will I ever. Somebody tried to teach me Final Cut, and after 2 minutes, I used some profanity, which I don't use a lot, and I showed this very near and dear person to me the door and said, "Don't ever try to teach me Final Cut."
We
Uh,
have our things that we
We
enjoy
sure
doing.
do, and
Yeah.
it's great. Aging is great because one day you really do wake up and well, I can do this and I can do that. I can't do this and I can't do that, and that's accepting. And I don't know if I'm chickening out, and I don't want to learn. I do want to learn, but there are things that you can and can't, and it's an acceptance. It's an acceptance.
And as
Uh,
a director, oftentimes your goal is not to be an expert in everything, but you kind of have to know enough about a lot of things so that you can give input and feedback, and ultimately you're focused on story and the audiovisual medium. That sort of ends up being your goal as the director. But it is very important to recognize, it's something that Steve Jobs used to say all the time, that the hardest decisions in life are not what you can do, it's what you decide not to do, despite the fact that you can. And that is not to say that you shouldn't learn new things. But do you want to be an expert? Because you can't be an expert in everything. Do you want to be an expert in sales, or do you want to be an expert in making the film? And those decisions are key to figuring out your place in the world. Um, Again, I'm learning. I don't know everything, but that's kind of what I use as my guiding light, figuring out what I'm specializing in, and let experts do their job, whether they're actors or um, they're in sales or if there's somebody really good at social media, that's their thing. They should do it. It's not my thing.
I'm learning it. I'm learning it. Uh, I'm learning it. It's a great, for me, it's a great mind expansive journey. Somebody approaching octogenarian status is messing around with TikTok. I don't know if that puts me in a rare class, but it's these are the things I want to learn and I want to do. So, and I've been hanging around social media for a long time. So that helps me promote Scarlet Winter and helps me do those things. So I try to stay on top of everything, and I think it's very therapeutic. I could write a book, on longevity techniques because I believe I'm sharper and better uh, approaching 80 than I ever have been before, and that doesn't come without work, and it comes with teaching and learning. And anyway, I have an interesting off-topic question to ask you. I don't want to pontificate, but I like this question. It was inspired by one of my favorite journalists. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's a tough
Um,
one, and there
there's so many
could
people.
be a few. No rules.
There's so many people. There's so many people. It might be off topic because we're talking about filmmaking, and I can talk about filmmakers. Um, Stanley Kubrick definitely is somebody that I would like to spend some time with, um, or perhaps uh, see him direct on set. Um, there's so many. Outside of filmmaking, Gandhi. That would have been cool, just to see what it is,
Yeah,
um, to be in his presence.
yeah,
I've seen his videos. I've seen whatever's available out there,
yeah.
and
I mean, I've watched, Ben Kingsley's performance several times.
extraordinary,
I
extraordinary.
mean, sometimes you have to, pinch yourself. Is it Gandhi or is it an actor?
Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he's got every nuance. He's got, not that I knew Gandhi, but you see enough newsreels, but it was such an extraordinary performance. And the whole shooting, that must have been, I mean, that was a tough.
I think that film was shot over 18 years or something. I mean,
Is
it
that
was a very,
right?
yes,
Wow.
I think so. Yeah, I would have to look up my facts, but I think
Wow.
it was a very long time to make that film. Yeah, yeah.
And his whole, listen, his whole life, his whole, commitment, everything about him. Yeah, there's a few on my list, and it's funny, that's a recurring on my list to have spent some time, peace and noble cause of peace. Dr. King is another one of my, I came close, but not close enough to hanging out. Anyway, um, um, Uh, the last thing I want to, well, you already mentioned where people can see Scarlet Winter, Apple TV
Yes,
and
yes. Just Google the film. It's available on many different platforms. It's so far right now we have released in the US and UK. It will, eventually be available in other territories. But if you're in US and UK, just Google the film and you can pick your favorite platform to watch it on.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
One last question, Munjal. So a few weeks ago, I watched the Academy Awards and being an indie author and loving the Garden State Film Festival because and I used to be a co-host of an indie radio disc jockey rock and roll thing. I did it a year and a half. It only had indie musicians, so indies all over my life. But seeing on the Academy Awards that, and you alluded to it, that an indie filmmaker and an indie film, parenthetically, wins basically everything. So I was hugely gratified that maybe this is at the precipice of a brave new world, that the world of indie creativity is being looked at and winning awards. Are you moved by that award ceremony?
I I don't really get moved by award ceremonies. I they are what they are, and they have a purpose, and that is great. It's wonderful that indie films are finding recognition. I feel like a lot of them always have, and Academy off from time to time picks great indie films. What I would like to see is a lot of these indie filmmakers are um they're struggling. They're making these films, I mean, they are taking on huge risks. Some of them are selling their houses and going into debt or whatever it is to make these films. Um, when these films are made, they don't have a path initially, oftentimes to distribution. And then they find recognition in film festivals, and all of a sudden there is buzz around it. And then they get picked up um, among best films at the Oscars, and that's wonderful. I think what I would like to see is um, for Hollywood to not get involved so late in the process, where they come in after the film is already made and it has already the producers have already sold a big portion of their rights. That's not when they should be coming in. If there are established directors that have been making films for a decade, they should fund those indie projects from the get-go, and help them find an audience. And so I think I will believe there is a change when I see funding in dramas and not just superhero movies with $200 million budgets. I would like there to be more money for $5 million films,
Yes,
$10 million films, $15 million films.
yes. Nicely said, and I agree. I do agree. Everything about indie, that whole institution, I love because I'm
Yeah.
there, and I know about journeys, and I know about it all. The whole
And I'm generally an optimist. I think people oftentimes want to do good things. They're well intentioned oftentimes. And they're just sometimes in a system where they're not able to influence that change. And hopefully, there are enough people out there that are going to support indie filmmaking with people of lots of different backgrounds. Of course, they should have a track record because ultimately this is a business. But there are tremendously good filmmakers out there who have done three feature films and have made brilliant works, and they just need support from Hollywood to take that next step, and that needs to happen more often than it does, in my view. But again,
and I agree.
yeah.
Nicely put. Nicely put. So, we did good. That was a
All right.
line I picked up from The Godfather when Michael tells Enzo, the baker, "You did good." So we did good. This was wonderful.
All
Uh,
right.
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for your
Yes.
time.
And we're friends. I'm loyal. Come back. I anything, just throw my way. We can redo this and do some more stuff like this because I'm so open to
Yeah,
this.
thank you for inviting me and giving us a platform, and I'll keep you posted on my
Please
next.
do. Please do. I'm just going to stop recording for 2 seconds. Don't leave. We're going to do a
Okay.
2 minute wrap, a little
Yeah, yeah,
theatrical.
yeah.
All right, 2 minute wrap.